Namaskar. Welcome to Prakash on Basics. I'm Prakash Zog, and we've been talking of the various sanskars that are carried out in Hinduism. We talked of the early sanskars. Now let's go ahead. I come to what is known as Chuda Karma as a technical word, but commonly used word for this sanskar is known as Chaul. This sanskar represents the first haircut given to the child. It is the removal of all hair except chuda, that is the shikha that is there behind. Uh, it therefore means retaining only one lock of hair. Sometimes a square patch of hair in front for small children could also be the one that is retained. And chaul is done for all the varnas, that is the kshatriyas, the vaishyas, the shudras, and the brahmins. It is usually done between the span of 14 to 15 months. Or if it gets delayed, it could be in the first or the third year of the child. And the tools used at that time were usually made of bronze or copper. Nowadays, of course, modern tools are used. And then different families have different traditions. So, naturally, in some cases, three or five locks of hair are also retained on the head of the child. The ritual itself is performed starting with a home, that is the holy fire that is lit at a specific point and place. Mantras are recited, but as far as girls are concerned, it is said to be a mantrak, that is without the mantras, which is the practice that was there then. In the ritual itself, the mother sits with the child on the lap. Uh, the position with respect to the fire is specified in the variety of text, the smrutis that are there around. The father sits next to her. Warm and cold water are simultaneously poured on the child, making all his hair wet. The father then initiates the hair cutting process, and then the barber continues and finishes the job. At the end, the father blesses the child for long life and prays to the tools to have not inflicted wounds to the child. The cut hair that time was usually buried or immersed in a pond. Nowadays, sometimes this and one of the other ones that I would specify, these two sanskars are done just prior uh, to the Upanayana sanskar. Now I come to the next, and this is a major sanskar again meant for all the varnas, the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Shudras. This is known as Vidyarambha. The word itself means, in Sanskrit, uh, to mark the beginning of education. It is usually performed uh, after the fifth year of the child. References to this are in the Markandeya Puran and the Kautilyan Arthashastra also. Uh, Kautilya also mentions about this. Uh, it is usually preferably done on Vijaya Dashmi. This is one of the 3.5 special muhurtas or auspicious days on which any process would be started off and would result with God's blessings. And in the ritual itself, the father, or if the family has a guru of its own, sits facing east, and the child sits facing the father. It starts with the invocation of Ganesh and Saraswati, the lords, gods of knowledge, and of course, invocation of the family gods. Using a dirt slate, as was the practice that time, the father is to familiarize the child with the basic alphabets. I remember using a normal slate sitting with my father, and I was made to learn the special alphabet Shri, that is an auspicious alphabet to start everything, which is something that many of us would know. Uh, the learning process itself starts with learning tables and numbers. And as you all know, numbers and maths has always been a very strong point of all Indians. Um, this is more like a preschool. The child is to be familiarized with alphabets, numbers, tables, and basic terms and terminologies that are around. More like a uh, education prior to formal education that starts off later on. The next sanskar ideally is Upanayana, but that's a lot of details that we need to cover. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip Upanayana and treat it separately next time, and talk of the next one, which is Keshanta. The word itself means Kesh is hair, Anta is end. This is typically a minor sanskar, and many a times it is also known as Godan. It is the removal of all the hair, the beard, the armpits, everything except the shikha, that is the one that is behind. According to Dr. Dange, who's a very senior authority on all Upanishads and Veds, the word Godan in Sanskrit also means the same as Keshant. So the words are very much similar. Mm. This is usually performed after the end of studies as per the capacity of the student, but it has to be performed prior to the marriage of the child of the youth. Um, Manusmriti and many of the other smritis specify the age at which this should be done for the various varnas. For the Brahmins, it is around the age of 16. For the Kshatriyas, 18 years. For the Vaishyas, 24 years. Uh, and this is obviously not to be done for the girls. Various obvious reasons, as you all can talk of. As I said, this could be in between during the process of the Upanayana, the study period, or just prior or after it. But the next sanskar that I'm going to talk of is usually at the end of the education of the child. It is known as Samavartan Sanskar. It is more like a graduation ceremony. Uh, it is a sanskar that indicates the end of studies of the child. Not all children were experts, not all kids could achieve and study everything. So, after a mutual consent of the student and the approval of the guru, uh, the student would come to the end of his education. He would then begin to earn, and through his earnings, he was expected to buy for himself a cap, a cloth, an uttariya, an, uh, an umbrella, earrings, and kajal or eye blackening that is commonly used by many. Uh, he is now, in fact, permitted to use all these also. He must then earn the stipulated amount of Guru Dakshina, the amount, the fees that he is expected to pay to his teacher. He must then perform this Samavartan Sanskar and the corresponding ceremony along with it. He disposes of all his brahmachari attire that he has been using throughout his Upanayana and his education. The Guru is to bathe him with a specific method. This is known as Abhyanga Snan. It is accompanied by many hymns and prayers and blessings by the Guru. It is this that makes him a Snatak, bathed in knowledge. Many of y'all who know the terminologies know that the word Snatak now implies a graduate, because the graduation ceremony is something that has been coming along in our culture for a very long time. The student now dons his new attire, takes the blessings from his guru, and is permitted to take a vehicle to go home. This formally ends his brahmacharya ashram. Please realize that he is now capable of moving into the next higher level and probably the most important part of his life, the Grihasthashram. In fact, he is now authorized to move into this part. And that is something that we will talk of a little later, because it is accompanied by a couple of other sanskars also. If you have liked whatever I have discussed, please pass on this information to your friends. Realize the logic according to which all this has been performed for ages together and why it should be done. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Tell your friends about it. Try and learn more and more about our beautiful Indian culture. And then we'll go into that small part that I skipped because it would take some time. And this is the Upanayana. This is the next step that we will go into. And that's going to be 15 days from now. Till we meet again on the same channel of Prakash and Basics. Namaskar.